Hello and welcome. You're watching News Center. I am Ashmit Kumar. Now, the air quality in Delhi continues to remain in the very poor category. As per data recorded by the Central Pollution Control Board, the AQI levels at 18 out of 38 monitoring stations stood in the severe category. Early this morning, the Supreme Court has expressed frustration at the lack of action and has sought a response from the government on the concerns raised on pollution. The Supreme Court has ordered that the matter be heard monthly to monitor the action taken by authorities. This comes after an amicus curiae pointed out concerns on missing data from AQI monitors and the alleged use of sprinklers around AQI monitoring stations. Amicus noted that the action plans have been in place since 2018, but implementation has fallen short. An amicus is an independent legal expert appointed by the court to provide assistance in a case. The amicus also told the court that schools were holding sports competitions in November, December. Despite the toxic air, the court has now asked the Air Quality Management Authority to consider halting such activities for students. And well, joining us now to take this discussion ahead is with us Shambhavi Shukla, Program Manager of the Center for Science and Environment, Air Pollution Unit, as well as Amit Bhatt, Managing Director of the International Council on Clean Transport. Mr. Bhatt, Shambhavi, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. Mr. Bhatt, let me come to you first. The submission that the Delhi government today made before the Apex Court is that, look, the theory is in place. It's the practical, it's the implementation which requires more scrutiny, which in fact elicited a response from the amicus saying that, look, the theory has been in place since 2018. So it's been a long time coming. Yet we seem to wake up every time, this time of the year, with AQI numbers north of 300, 400, mammoth numbers. What are the challenges in implementation that we're facing on the ground?
Thanks a lot. So that's a very important question because we know what works, at least in terms of implementation. And I think that the action is how do we get these things implemented? So, especially when you look at, when we talk about transport, again, global evidence shows there's absolutely no other way but to electrify our transport. But we don't have concrete policies of electrifying everything in them. I mean, if we have to really look at reducing emissions from transport, which is 7 days a week, 12 months a year, we have to absolutely accelerate electrification. And you can see examples either from London, from Beijing, or even in California. The technology is available, but there is no will to implement it. We are still relying on people to to buy these vehicles, not mandating OEMs to sell the vehicles. So at least from transport side, Delhi have to absolutely convert everything to electric as soon as possible, maybe in next 5 years or so.
Interesting. Ms. Shukla, let me come to you. One of the key aspects that was flagged in the previous hearing by the amicus and also today as a part of today's proceedings is fudging of data. Are the numbers that we have on AQI even accurate? That's the question being posed. A lot of media reports have come to light which suggest that is a lot of these monitors, there are 38 of them, a lot of these monitors go dark for large parts of time, large parts of the day, leaving big gaps in the data availability with respect to what the actual AQI numbers is. That's one. And second, of course, there are a whole host of media reports which suggest that sprinklers were deployed near AQI monitoring stations to fudge the numbers, to distort the numbers. What do you make of these charges, these questions?
So, of course, there were times when the data was missing from the portal that we get through. So, of course, there must be something which is happening. But then when we talk about sprinkling of water that's happening around the monitoring station, so that happens because some of them are also hotspots area. And we need to actually reduce the pollution around the hotspots area because there is a lot of dust which is being generated and that is present over there. But then what we require, like actually what we should talk about is what we require right now immediately to make sure that we are not reaching the levels of 500, 600 of AQI right now. So currently the AQI is almost touching 400, which is severe category. So then we should actually look for some systemic infrastructure reforms to be in place so that we can work towards like how this, it's a long-term problem. It's not a short-term problem. And these band-aid solutions actually won't help in reducing the pollution levels of the overall city. So what we require is a long-term sustainable solutions that can be implemented all the year round so that like maybe after 5 years or what, we can see some change happening. As Amit also rightly said, that
That's an
we
interesting
need
use of language
electrification
there,
target
Ms.
for sector.
Shukla. That's an interesting use of language that you've used. A band-aid solution is not something that will fix this problem that we have on our hands. Let me then ask a follow-up question. There were also conversations not very long back where we were discussing issues and options such as seeding of clouds to have artificial rain in the national capital. Is that a band-aid solution as well, or is that something that's worked overseas that perhaps can yield results, or is it again a shot in the dark here by the Delhi administration?
So see, cloud seeding is a very specific, a short term, of course, a solution to the rising air pollution or the peaking of air pollution when we talk about the severity, basically to decrease the severity and bring some relief to the citizens. So, but then cloud seeding is also not a sustainable solution that we can talk about. Like, of course, it require a lot. It requires a lot of preemptive things. Like a cloud should be in a certain, there should be certain humidity in the clouds that should be present. And these are just experimental things that can take place. It's not a permanent solution that whenever the pollution is rising, you can just go ahead doing the cloud seeding process. So that's a lot of preemptive steps that you need to take place before
A
doing that kind
stopgap
of
measure at best. It's not a sustainable solution. Mr. Bhatt, coming to you, as far as sustainable solutions are concerned, we've seen very smart strategies being deployed by farmers when it comes to paddy burning. We find that they have now coordinated their timings of when to burn the crop residue after the satellites have passed over the northern plains of the country. When we're dealing with such an approach, how difficult again will implementation be on the ground to translate the theory of the policies into the implementation on the ground?
Absolutely, Ashok, and that's a very important point that you made. I think what we have to do, and somebody also mentioned that, right? We have to solve problem of two. And one way to solve the problem is to bring technologies that don't emit. This is zero emission. And I think in the transport sector, we have these technologies available. So that Delhi has to absolutely convert this to electric, and it also go beyond transport. So as a construction is also a major key. In your field, you can also have construction equipment that's zero emission vehicles. You can also have agriculture based on zero emission. You can electrify processes. Also, electrification has to be a front and center of the conversation. It will take time, but at least we know how we have pathways. The pathway will be reduced emissions.
Mr. Bhatt, we have some difficulty connecting you to the studio. I believe there's some difficulty, we're not getting a very clear connection with you. I'll request the production team to get back to you on a cleaner line. But while we do that, Ms. Shukla, again, coming to you, when you talk of sustainable solutions, where is the gap in terms of accountability? We have the Supreme Court monitoring this entire issue for very many years. The MC Mehta matter goes back for longer than I've been around. There's also a CAQM that has been instituted. There's an MOEF. There's a state government as well. Where is the lack of accountability here in terms of enforcement?
So even if all the departments, all like you rightly have said, that we have everything in place right now, all the actions are identified, what each government departments have to do. But then what is lagging right now in terms of implementation on the ground is the enforcement thing. So even if you go around Delhi and see that there are a lot of roads which are unpaved, which is causing a lot of dust pollution, but that there is some sprinkling happening, but then there is no work that is acting as a permanent solution to it. So, for example, a road may be getting constructed from last 4 years. There must be something project that is going on, but then that is creating a lot of dust pollution. So that is hanging around for a longer time, and there is no enforcement mechanism that is present right now. Even we have apps like Sameer app, Bandeli app, where you can go and complain on the whatever you are seeing around you in your neighborhood, basically, that what are the sources of pollution. You can easily go and complain, but then there is not much resolution that is happening to those complaints right now.
Let me ask a follow-up question. Very often we see how Beijing was at the time when they were hosting the Olympics, the situation there on the ground, the flack that they got from the international media. Now they appear to have sorted out the situation in Beijing. AQI levels is no longer an issue. What seems to have worked in Beijing? Something that we can adopt here, something that we can make work here in Delhi as well.
So see, what worked in Beijing, one thing is their willpower to actually implement and enforce all the actions and the plans that are already in place. So like the major and the biggest thing that has worked actually in Beijing, and the tough actions on each sector. So then what we need right now is sector-wise strategy to how you can reduce pollution. For vehicles, when we talk about, we say that we need like set targets for each segments of for electrification. But then at the same time, when we talk about waste burning, so we need proper segregation, proper management of waste, since all the waste together is being, be it organic or inorganic, is being dumped at the waste site right now. So that is
Sure.
not being properly managed.
Right, Ms. Shukla. We happen to have Mr. Bhatt joining us again, this time hopefully on a clearer line. Mr. Bhatt, coming to you, the organization that you work for, ICCT, operates across geographies. Are there solutions overseas that we're not looking at, slow-hanging fruits that we could consider for a longer-term resolution of this crisis that we have here in Delhi? We've lost Mr. Bhatt once again. I'll just go back to Ms. Shukla for a final comment. Ms. Shukla, is this, you've been pointing out through the course of this discussion, a lack of implementation, a lack of enforcement. At the heart of it, would you attribute it to perhaps a lack of political capital, political will behind the issue? Very often we see leaders of neighboring states point fingers at each other, but not really work towards a very pointed, specific solution. Is it an issue of political will, political capital that is required for a long-term resolution?
So you have rightly said the willpower specifically at all the levels, actually, not just political level, but then at the government level, at the citizen level, that is important. And what is happening right now is in Delhi, if we talk about, there is 60% of pollution that is being generated by Delhi itself. So each state, instead of blaming each other, we should work on our own pollution, curbing the emissions that we are generating. Because whenever there is a downwind, state would put allegation to an upwind state that the pollution is coming from them. But then what is happening is Delhi is also getting pollution from other cities, whereas Delhi is also contributing to other cities' pollution. So we should actually work at two levels where we are working on our at city level as well, and also at a regional level too, because this is a problem of the Indo-Gangetic plain. Overall, the pollution is bad. So
Right.
we need to work at the regional level as well to resolve this issue.
Right, Ms. Shukla. Again, Delhiites here, not just Delhiites, in fact, people across, as Ms. Shukla was pointing out, across the Indo-Gangetic plain of North India will be hoping for some political wisdom to be applied to this issue to ensure that there is some longer-term resolution of this crisis-like situation that is affecting the whole of the Indian northern plains. That's all the time that we have. I'd like to thank both of our panelists, Mr. Bhatt for joining us, as well as Ms. Shukla for sharing their insight. But with that, it's time now to head into a very short break. Coming up next, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar met with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow ahead of Putin's India visit, briefing Putin and other Russian leaders on the preparations that are underway in the national capital right here. Stay tuned. We'll be back in just a bit.